guys? It's your man, Donovan Sharpe, and welcome back to Ask Donovan. Let's go to Leon in Canada, who says that the beginning of his unplugging came in jail talking to a pimp.
Hello, Mr. Sharpe. I'm a lawyer here in Canada. My first name is Leon. Anyway, I just wanted you to know that many years ago when I was a young blue pill lawyer, the firm I was working with sent me to jail to interview a client. And this particular man was a pimp. And when I got there, there were a whole bunch of women, at least 5 or 6 women, and they were all there to put money into the guy's account so that he could buy things at the canteen. So I sat down with this guy and I said to him, look, with all due respect, you got to explain this to me. How is it that you've got all these women coming to jail to put money into your account? I mean, you can't do anything for them. You're locked up. And I just have to ask you, with all due respect, what is the magic? How are you doing all of this? And the man laughed. He laughed. And he says, look, there's only a few things a woman would ever want from a man. And that is, you have to be a man. You have to have balls and you have to have guts and you have to stand up for yourself. And if you do those things, you can have just about any woman. And that was the first time I started to get some red pill awakening. So I wanted to tell you about it. And I'm telling you about this today because I saw your discussion about the importance of game. And that guy in jail back in 1996, he showed me the importance of game.
Wow. Listen, thanks for the call, Leon, and thanks for that incredible story. You know, it's interesting that this happened way back in 96. I was, 18, 19 years old at the time. I was a freshman in college. I mean, this was many, many moons ago. But one thing that jumped out to me about Leon's story, other than the fact that his unplugging started with a conversation with a pimp in jail, is that he characterized this as magic. A lot of guys who discuss the things I talk about sometimes believe that the dating market has only recently gotten exponentially difficult for men. Most people these days are well aware of the fact that a combination of the internet and the smartphone sort of paved the way for social media and dating apps, which have both been instrumental in the complete destruction of sexual relations between men and women. If you're watching this right now, you're well aware of this. But the dating market started eroding long before I even hit puberty. I mean, me personally, I'm a child of the 80s. And when I was a kid, my favorite shows were The A-Team and Knight Rider. I loved all the Rocky movies and anything that Arnold Schwarzenegger was in. As a Gen Xer, I was lucky enough to see what true masculinity was all about, albeit in television and movies. You see, my coming of age came at the tail end of when conventional masculinity wasn't canceled or deplatformed or #AlsoMe. I loved watching Mr. T beat up bad guys. I loved watching Michael Knight shagging all the pretty girls. I loved watching Hannibal Smith smoking his cigars and being unapologetically masculine. I loved Schwarzenegger blowing everything up. I loved that stuff because of my Y chromosome. I was a boy with testosterone, and this is what I was drawn to, just like every other boy growing up at that age. But when the 80s were over, things changed very quickly. So quickly, in fact, that 6 short years after the new decade started, a lawyer characterizes a man's ability to be good with women as magic. And that is a microcosm of how quickly things eroded between men and women. Well, fast forward now to 2021, and things are much worse, at least dating market-wise. I say this all the time, guys. Women haven't changed. Men haven't changed. Women are still drawn to men who exhibit conventionally masculine characteristics. Okay? They respond to men who grab their balls and do what needs to be done, regardless if they're whining or whatever the hell else they're doing to try to get you to stop. Women are attracted to and admire a man who acts like a man. The problem is, masculine characteristics and behaviors have been legislated out of male behavior. These days, it's damn near illegal to be a man, right? Like if you walk up and talk to a pretty girl in public for the sole purpose of building attraction, you're guilty of street harassment. And sometimes it will be characterized as harassment of a bedroom nature. If you strike up conversation with a woman at the office, you get hashtagged and your career is over. If you're a college student and you get drunk and hook up with a co-ed who is also drunk, you could be expelled if she decides to tell people that you depar spelled backwards her. If you meet a girl at the bar of the club and have a night of fun, you could be arrested for the same reason as the drunk co-ed accuses you of. Males these days are quite literally terrified to be men for fear of their careers, their money, and their very freedom. But like I said, this is not a recent phenomenon, at least not legislatively. Males have been afraid to be men since the late 80s. So an inmate who has no freedom, no money, no social currency, nothing tangible to offer a woman, who has complete control over a half a dozen of said women, when every one of those women could easily get all the tangible benefits from the men who enjoy their freedom, that is indicative of the deplorable state of masculinity going back as far as it appears as a quarter century. One of the main questions that men who find this community ask me is, why do women, well, in general, why do women pledge their undying loyalty to assholes? Why are they so loyal to players? Why do they worship guys who are in prison for violent crimes? Why do they even marry convicted felons of red rum spelled backwards? Well, the answer was given to Leon 25 years ago when that pimp who was locked up simply told him that you have to have balls, you got to have guts, you got to stand up for yourselves. In other words, you got to be a man. And that's all there is to it. There's no magic to it. It is simply doing what your Y chromosome is telling you to do. You seeing a pretty girl and wanting to go up and talk to her, that's your testosterone doing its job. Having a low tolerance for bullshit is your Y chromosome kicking in. Telling your woman to knock it off when she gets out of pocket is your masculine hard drive doing what needs to be done. But the world we live in sees all of these behaviors as toxic. And because women rarely see raw masculinity in their daily lives because it's been legislated out of our behavior, they do whatever it takes to be around it, including sharing a pimp who is in jail with about 4 or 5 other women. So any man who doubts his ability to become good with women needs only to think of it this way. If a man with no freedom, no money, nothing else to offer a woman tangibly, okay, can control a half a dozen of them, then certainly I can, at the very least, snag 2 or 3 of my own. If he can do that with 5 or 6 women, I can do it with 1, 2, or 3. And you can. You absolutely can. Thank you very much for the call, Leon. I appreciate you watching the show. Now let's go to Daryl in Texas, who talks about an underrated aspect of being unplugged from the Matrix. This is interesting. Let's take a listen.
Hello, my name is Gerald. I've been watching your show about 2 weeks. I really enjoy it. Comment on cohabitation with a woman. Basically, I go to school for occupational therapy, and I work transportation. I've always done blue-collar work. I got tired of it. And I understand that buying a home with a woman is the smartest thing, but there's a lack of, I guess, the red pill community that talks about how to utilize women. And being blue collar and being a black guy, when you go to college, is harder. But when you have smart, intelligent women around you to read over your papers, have you understand certain things, you can use that to your advantage. And that's truly, I have a 3.5 because of women and because I utilize women for my education. And I'm actually about to begin the certifications and all the training and all that kind of stuff for being an occupational therapist assistant. And I'm thinking about going in the master's program eventually. And the fact that I know women, they're great at writing papers, they're great at correcting papers before you turn them in. And I've utilized all the women in my life to help my grades and help me succeed in school, because it's hard for brothers, especially when you go to college later. And I just wanted to say that, you know, I hear a lot about everything and blue pill, red pill rage. I just like the content. Okay. But I just believe it's important for these young guys to understand how to utilize women so they can succeed in different types of ways. And that's what I've always done. I enjoy your show. It's funny. I enjoy the content. I like that you're helping guys. I think that shit is cool as hell. Thank you. Have a good day.
Yeah, by the way, Gerald, not Daryl. Sorry about that mispronunciation of the word. listen, Gerald, you are 847% spot on with this. And understanding what Gerald is talking about here requires having been in this community for quite a while. When men find this community, they go through a few different stages, right? Like first there's the shock, okay? I mean, you're shocked to see this information. People agree with it. It's actually allowed on the internet for now. Then comes the anger. Now, close to 100% of men who find this community go through the shock phase. I would estimate that around 60 to maybe 70% of those men go through the anger phase. Now, I was fortunate. I was one of the fortunate few who didn't go through the anger phase. And that's for many reasons. That's for another day and time. But this is important. This is very important. The anger phase is very important because there are a lot of men who never really get past the anger phase, right? They never stop becoming angry with women. These are your black pill guys, right? Your wannabe red pill guys who give themselves the title of president, and then they plagiarize phrases and they create hats that closely resemble the red ones of ex-president. These are guys who create channels to expose men like us because they know that if they directed their anger towards women, which is where their anger really lies, they'd be deplatformed, canceled, all the rest of that. But the men who make it out of the anger phase and begin to really understand women for who and what they are and continue to cultivate that knowledge will eventually come to the realization that even though most women are really only good for bedroom fun, that there are a lot of women out there who can be of service to us outside of the bedroom. Gerald obviously realized this a long time ago and utilizes women to his own advantage, and quite effectively, I might add. What men in this community need to understand is that women do have their uses outside of the bedroom. A lot of guys want to be meathead red pill guy and be like, I only use women for sex and I discard them immediately. I kick her out. Not understanding and recognizing certain qualities and traits in women that could benefit them financially, socially, or otherwise could make a tangible difference in their lives. They don't realize that. This is one of the reasons that I am currently in a cohabitating relationship with a woman almost a decade past the wall. She can code, she is an SEO expert, and she has handled millions of dollars in ad spend for a company that she eventually left to come work for me. Yes, she is still sexually attractive. Not nearly as sexually attractive as she was, say, 10, 15 years ago, but attractive enough to keep me around, at least for now. But Devin is extraordinarily gifted at what she does. She's been very instrumental in my success. She's been an expert in her field for a decade and a half. And she helps me in that way. If she were just another attractive 37-year-old who didn't add real value to my life outside of the bedroom fun, trust me when I tell you, I would not be in a relationship with her. I mean, I don't know, best case scenario, I pay her as an independent contractor to perform, I don't know, maybe certain tasks for my business. Worst case scenario, she's at the bottom of my roster as one of my backup girls I can call in case one of my main girls gets flaky or becomes too much of a headache. Like, that's no disrespect to Dev, but that's real. But it's important to understand that there are women out here who do have utility and agency outside of the bedroom. This doesn't mean you have to seek this out. You don't have to go looking for women who have utility. They will find you. But what it does mean is that you have to be mature enough to understand that if you do meet such a woman, that it would behoove you to, at the very least, explore the possibility of her bringing something to the table that you probably cannot. I know absolutely nothing about SEO. I know zilch zero about ad spend. I don't know anything about keywords or any of the rest of that stuff. That gives me a headache when I start talking about it. But Devin does. And as much trash as I talk about the uselessness of most women today, it would be disingenuous of me not to acknowledge that there are some women out there who are more than just 3 holes to stick our sausages in. Gerald clearly understands this, and he uses this knowledge to his advantage. Men in this community definitely need to do the same. Thanks very much for the call, Gerald, and thank you for your support. If you have a question that you'd like me to answer on Ask Donovan, like Leon and Gerald, leave me a voicemail at 702-919-7197. Thanks for watching.